A broken girl hitches a ride with a millionaire CEO, but what happens next will shock you. The night was darker than expected, thick with an eerie fog that swallowed the ground whole. Samantha stood lonely on the side of the road, her shoulder bag a lump of desperation slung across her thin frame. Her heart raced not from fear of the dark, but the chilling thought of what could lie ahead. Just as she debated tearing the silence with a scream, headlights pierced through the shroud. A sleek, black car slowed, the window rolling down, revealing a man whose face glimmered with ambition and authority, dressed in a tailored suit that screamed power. The moment his voice reached her ears, butterflies erupted in her stomach. Need a lift? Something in the air crackled with tension, an electric charge that hinted at the extraordinary. Why would a millionaire stop for a girl like her? Her mind raced with questions, her lips dry as she considered the gravity of her choice. This was a ride into the unknown, but maybe, just maybe, it was her chance at escaping everything she left behind. As she slid into the leather seat, the car smelled of fresh pine and expensive cologne, wrapping her in a cocoon of luxuriousness just as the world outside faded away. The man introduced himself as Jake, CEO of a tech company poised for global domination. He flashed a disarming smile, yet something dark flickered in his eyes, a hint of secrets buried beneath layers of charm. The tension hummed, each word spoken resonated like a tone in a symphony, sharp, beautiful, but underlined by something sinister. How did you end up out here? His curious gaze fixed on her. Samantha felt exposed, yet also strangely invigorated by the attention. She hesitated, spinning tales of misfortune, peeling back the layers of her life. The atmosphere thickened between them, each confession drawing them closer, igniting an urgency wrapped in danger. Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. After the brief interruption, Samantha focused on Jake's profile, his jaw taut with determination. The city lights began to blur, shifts of dark and bright racing by like her thoughts. What was he hiding? What could a man like him want with a girl like her? As the tension swelled, the window rattled slightly, and her heart thudded louder. Was it just the car, or was it something more? Just when it seemed that they were about to cross the threshold from chance to something more, Jake's expression darkened, his grip tightening on the steering wheel. You should know, not everything is as it seems, he murmured, casting a sideways glance that sent chills down her spine. In that split second, the air felt thicker, as if holding its breath, rife with unspoken revelations. Samantha realized she had stepped into a world shrouded in mystery. A million questions danced in her mind. What secrets did he carry? And why did it feel as if the road they were driving was leading towards something terrifyingly unknown? The car glided through the night, smooth yet tense. Samantha's instincts screamed at her. What did he mean? Not everything was as it seemed. Did that include him? She studied Jake's profile as he concentrated on the road, shadows dancing across his face like ghosts whispering secrets. The weight of silence grew, a leaden cloud pressing down on them. Do you ever feel trapped? She blurted out, unnerved by her own boldness. The question hung in the air, a raw confession both terrifying and liberating. Jake glanced over, his brow furrowing. Trapped? He repeated, his voice measured. No, I've always believed in carving my own path, but that's not for everyone. Her heart raced at the vulnerability in his tone. Maybe he understood her more than she'd expected. What if the road you're carving leads you into a dark place? It's all about the choices we make, he replied, a flicker of something dark crossing his features. But sometimes, those choices are made for you. The car swerved slightly, and she felt her stomach lurch. Was he just a man shaped by the world around him, or was he something more malevolent? The shadows outside thickened as they entered a darker stretch of the road. The lights of the city were behind them, swallowed by the night, and a sense of unease settled in the pit of her stomach. "What do you mean?" she asked, her pulse quickening. The answer felt just out of reach, tantalizingly close yet terrifying that he didn't respond immediately. Instead, he turned the steering wheel sharply, taking what felt like a shortcut through a narrow, winding road flanked by dense trees. With every bend, every twist, Samantha felt the walls of the car closing in. The thump of her heartbeat echoed in her ears. "Where are we going?" she dared to ask, her voice dropping to a whisper. "Just trust me," he said, his gaze intense, pinning hers. "There's something I want to show you." The ominous tone returned, sending a shiver down her spine. What could possibly be so important that he'd risk driving into the heart of darkness? Before she could respond, the headlights flickered and dimmed briefly. A shadow darted across the road. "Jake," she started, fear grabbing her throat. But he only accelerated. "Stay calm," he said sharply, eyes locked on the road, the tension in his voice betraying a sliver of panic beneath his calm facade. The way he gripped the wheel tightened her chest. Was he afraid of what was ahead, or something lurking behind them? A rustle echoed outside, and her breath hitched. The fog thickened, wrapping around them like a suffocating blanket. They were utterly isolated now, the only noise the hum of the engine and the crunch of gravel beneath the tires. Just when she thought the night couldn't grow darker, the headlights caught a glimpse of something, a figure standing in the middle of the road, silhouetted against the fog. Samantha's heart stopped. "Jake!" she cried, panic rising as he swerved violently. The car skidded, tires screeching against the asphalt as it spun slightly. She braced against the seat, the world around them blurring into chaos. They came to a halt, and in that terrifying breath of silence, she and Jake locked eyes, fear mirrored in their expressions. "Get out," he ordered, his voice low and urgent, a sudden shift from cool confidence to raw desperation. "Get out? Why?" she stammered, her instincts screaming for her to stay put. "Just trust me," he snapped, and the wildness in his eyes threw her into turmoil. Before she could make a decision, he threw open his door and stepped out into the darkness. The shadows swallowed him whole, leaving her alone, heart racing, uncertainty flooding her thoughts. What was waiting out there? And what had Jake hidden beneath that suave exterior? She could stay safe inside, sheltering from the unknown, or venture out into the dark, and confront the mystery head-on. But did she really want to discover what lurked beyond the veil of fog? The moment hung heavy, thick with dread. Time stretched until she finally took a deep breath, yanked the door open, and stepped into the abyss. But the truth? It might just rip apart everything she thought she knew. What awaited her in the shadows? The chill of the night air hit Samantha like a wave as she climbed out of the car. The fog curled around her feet, cold and damp, as if the earth itself was warning her to stay inside. Her heart hammered against her ribcage, each beat echoing the doubt creeping in. She glanced back at the car, its headlights illuminating nothing but swirling mist. "Jake!" she called, her voice swallowed by the fog. Panic tightened her chest. How had things escalated so quickly? One moment, they were mere strangers, and now he had plunged her into this nightmare. Footsteps broke the silence. The crunch of gravel alerted her before she could see Jake moving back toward her, soaked in darkness. She inhaled sharply as he emerged from the swirling tendrils of fog, a determined look stitched onto his features. "We need to move," he said, urgency wrapping around his words. "Move? Where?" she asked, instinctively taking a step back. "Trust me," he reiterated, this time his voice a whisper, almost desperate. Seeing him like this ignited a flicker of something in her, fear battling with an odd sense of loyalty to a man she barely knew. Before she could protest, he reached for her hand and pulled her along the narrow path that twisted deeper into the woods. The trees loomed overhead, their branches like skeletal fingers against the night sky, scratching at the pale moonlight. "What are we running from?" she panted as they moved, the damp soil squelching beneath her sneakers. The tension in her muscles coiled tighter. "It's not what we're running from, it's what's coming." He glanced back, eyes scanning the darkness behind them. She could see the raw, primal fear etched into his features, completely unguarded and raw. As they pushed deeper into the woods, the air grew colder, thick with the scent of damp earth and moss. A low growl resonated through the silence, like an animal lurking just beyond her line of sight. Samantha's breath caught in her throat. "Jake, please tell me what's happening," she begged, gripping his hand tighter. The pulse of fear throbbed in her veins, and with it came a surge of adrenaline. He hesitated, his breathing heavy as he turned back to face her. "You need to understand all of this, it's connected. Everything. We've crossed paths for a reason." "Reason? What reason?" She felt the desperation clawing at her words. "I don't know if I can. Just hold on to me. I swear I'll explain everything, but we have to keep moving." His voice rose slightly, and she could see that shimmer of fear in his eyes again. It shattered any fleeting thought of doubt. Faster now, they navigated the winding path, shadows dancing around them. Her heart raced harder with every step, and she could feel the tension building, a weighty anticipation filling the air. The growl returned, sharper and closer this time. A rush of cold swept down her spine. They weren't alone, something was out there. What happened next was a blur. A flash of fur burst from the underbrush, slamming into Jake and knocking him to the ground. Samantha screamed, the sound lost in the chaos as she scrambled backward, her heart pounding violently against her ribcage. "Jake!" She gasped, fear threatening to swallow her whole. He struggled beneath the weight of the creature, a desperate battle unfolding in the muted light of the moon. With a rush of adrenaline, she surged forward, uncertainty propelling her. "Get off him!" she yelled, hands shaking, as she reached for anything to help. But as she drew closer, she realized she knew nothing about the reality of their situation. Not about Jake, and certainly not about whatever darkness was about to consume them. If sensing her presence, the creature paused, turning its gaze toward her. In that moment, everything stopped. Time itself held its breath. What waited behind those eyes? The answer might unravel more than just their night. It could tear apart the very fabric of reality they thought they understood. And with that chilling thought, she found herself locked in a moment that could change everything. Samantha's heart raced as the beast locked eyes with her, its growl morphing into a low rumble that vibrated through the ground beneath her. She had always imagined darkness as a blanket, weighted down by fear, but this was something else, a living thing, palpable and wakeful. "Jake!" she screamed again, her voice pushing past the lump in her throat. Yet, despite her plea, he was struggling with the creature. She caught a glimpse of its eyes, piercing, hungry, filled with an energy she couldn't comprehend. With each passing second, the distance between her and danger seemed to collapse. "Run! Get out of here!" Jake's voice broke through the chaos, strained and deep with panic. He shifted beneath the creature, but it held him fast, talons sunk deep into his clothing. Samantha hesitated. Fear turned her feet to lead, yet the instinct to protect surged through her. She lunged forward, grabbing a fallen branch from the forest floor, and swung it at the creature. "Get off him!" The creature whipped its head toward her, revealing razor-sharp teeth glistening in the moonlight. A flicker of recognition sparked in its gaze, freezing Samantha where she stood. "Don't look at it." Jake's strained voice sliced through the haze. "It's feeding off your fear. Stay focused." Fear. Her breath hitched as realization blossomed in her mind. This creature thrived off her panic. It craved her terror like a drug. With a deep breath, refusing to let fear overtake her, she squared her shoulders. "You don't scare me," she shouted, channeling every ounce of defiance she could muster. The creature recoiled slightly, its grip loosening on Jake. In that fleeting moment, he shoved against it, rolling out from beneath its claws. He scrambled to his feet, eyes meeting hers, wide and grateful. "Keep it distracted just a little longer." Samantha tightened her grip on the branch, suddenly feeling empowered. The hunt was on, but she wouldn't be the prey. She darted to the side, weaving through the trees, spurring the creature to follow. It lunged, jaws snapping, but she pivoted, evading it at the last second. "Close it off," Jake shouted from behind her, his voice echoing through the shadows. "We can trap it." With instinct guiding her, Samantha dashed toward a cluster of thick trees, hoping there might be some way to outmaneuver the beast. The growls intensified, mixing with the sounds of rustling leaves and snapping twigs. "Hurry!" She dove into the space between two trees, breathing heavily. The creature thrashed in pursuit, inching closer as she flattened herself against the ground. Her heart thudded furiously in her chest. "Now!" Jake yelled, diving into the fray. He grabbed a handful of stones from the forest floor, hurling them at the creature. Distracted, it whipped around, letting out a roar that sent chills skittering down Samantha's spine. The stones connected, momentarily stunning it. That flicker of advantage made Samantha's blood race with hope. "Get a grip!" Jake shouted, reaching for her hand. She felt his warmth pull her toward him. Together, the two of them, adrenaline fueling their movements, launched themselves out from behind the trees. They had no time for hesitation. They would either trap the beast or become its next meal. Together, they raced back, weaving to outsmart it, hearts pounding, their breaths synchronized in a fierce rhythm, but suddenly, darkness enveloped them. All around, the fog thickened, making it nearly impossible to see. They could hear the creature growling, anticipation crackling in the air, and that horrific reality began to set in. They were cut off, lost, and utterly vulnerable. "Jake!" she murmured, panic creeping back in. The creature was closing in. "We need to find a way out, now." His voice was a frenzy, but she could see the determination. "This isn't over." Not yet. In the distance, something shifted in the fog, and the air grew impossibly still as shadows danced, and a new sound reverberated through the trees. Samantha's stomach twisted. Whatever it was, it felt far darker than they had encountered. Was it the creature again, or was there something else waiting, lurking in the depths of the night? "Run!" Jake shouted, a fresh wave of urgency flooding through him. And just as they turned, a howling wind swept through the trees, pulling them deeper into the unknown forest. What awaited them in the shadows was the true source of their nightmarish reality, and it was coming for them. The fog coiled around them like a living creature, thick and suffocating. Shadows danced at the edges of their vision, shifting and merging into a darker madness. Panic surged through Samantha, and she struggled to keep her focus. "What now, Jake? We can't just run blindly. We need to regain our footing." His voice was sharp, cutting through the mist. But before they could form a plan, a chilling howl echoed through the trees, raw, feral, full of malice. It was neither the creature they had been evading nor something they could easily explain. It was a reminder that they were not alone in this hellish maze. Samantha felt her pulse quicken again, the weight of fear threatening to pull her under. The ground rumbled beneath them, deep and ominous, as if the earth itself was growling. They had to move. Whatever was closing in on them wasn't just a beast, it was a hunting force, drawn to their very essence. "Over there!" Jake yelled suddenly, pointing toward a narrow path barely visible through the undulating fog. The trees loomed like gnarled giants, but they had no choice. They sprinted forward, adrenaline masking the agony in their muscles. Samantha's lungs burned, each breath a painful gasp as the sound of snapping twigs filled the silence. Behind them, the growling deepened. It was a low, vibrating sound that made the hairs on her arms stand upright. "It's getting closer," she yelled, fear tinging her voice. "It's toying with us." Jake called back, glancing over his shoulder. His expression shifted from determination to dread as he caught a glimpse of movement. "Go, go, go." They pushed through brambles and thorns digging into their skin, each step booming in her ears like a drumbeat of impending doom. Suddenly, Samantha's foot caught on a root, and she stumbled, nearly losing her balance. A sharp snap echoed at the edge of their senses. "Keep moving," Jake shouted, pulling her upright as cold sweat dripped down her spine. She could feel the beast's presence like an icy breath on her neck, its shadow merging with hers. With renewed urgency, they plunged into the opening of a small clearing, the moonlight spilling onto the ground in broken patches. They gasped in relief but didn't dare stop for long. The air hummed with a charged energy, making their instincts tingle. Just as they contemplated their next move, the howling wind shifted abruptly, revealing something horrid lurking to the side of the clearing. The creature, no longer a mere shadow, emerged from the mist, and its form was larger, more grotesque than they had imagined. Muscles rippled beneath its dark fur, glinting teeth poised like daggers under the moonlight. "What the hell is that?" Samantha gasped, heart in her throat. It was a brutal amalgamation of beast and nightmare, eyes glinting with a hunger that sent icy fear through her. "Options," Jake suddenly said, scanning their surroundings with swift desperation. "We either fight or find somewhere to hide." Samantha was rooted, torn between her instinct to flee and the call of bravery. Did they truly stand a chance against this horror? But as she glanced at Jake, she saw resolve harden in his expression. "Together," he murmured, grounding her. Suddenly the clearing rumbled like a distant storm, and then a low roar erupted, echoing through the trees. The creature lunged, and Samantha dove to the side, her stomach twisting. "This isn't just a nightmare. It's real." "Fight!" Jake shouted, his voice fierce. He reached for a discarded branch nearby, brandishing it like a weapon. The beast spun towards them, snarling, and Samantha felt something shift within her. Time slowed as the world faded away, leaving only her and that creature. She could harness a strength she never knew she had, but as the beast reared back, ready to pounce, Samantha could sense another movement in the shadows, something larger, far more dangerous. It was impossible to tell if it was coming for them or the beast. "Jake, look out!" They turned just in time to see another figure sliding into the clearing. It was bigger, darker, a shadow laced with terror, and it was about to unleash chaos. What was lurking in the darkness? A new predator, or something far worse than before? The ground shook again, and Samantha's heart raced, its thudding echoing in her ears. The first creature, with its sinewy form and glowing eyes, paused, sensing the shift in the air. A low growl rumbled from its throat, mixing with the heavy fog and swirling chaos around them. "What is that?" Jake whispered, his grip on the branch tightening. Samantha barely had time to respond as the new figure emerged from the mist with unsettling grace. It was not just larger, it seemed to carry an aura of command, a predatory confidence that sent waves of dread surging through her veins. Its eyes glowed like molten gold, piercing through the fog like searchlights, and a shimmer of something almost human flickered across its features for just a heartbeat. "Stay back!" she shouted, terrified yet oddly protective of Jake. The first creature took a step towards them, as if sizing up its opponent, its jagged teeth glistening ominously. This was no ordinary standoff. It felt like a primal battle for survival between two titans. She and Jake were nothing more than pawns caught in a cruel game. Suddenly, the larger creature lunged, its body a blur of motion. The air thickened, crackling with energy as the first beast jumped back, narrowly avoiding its strike. "What the hell is happening?" Samantha gasped, stumbling backward. "I don't know, but we can't stay here," Jake yelled, his voice barely reaching her over the pounding chaos. He took a step back, urging her to follow him while keeping eyes fixed on the fight unraveling before them. As Jake pulled her deeper into the darkness of the trees, the sounds of the brawl behind them escalated to a cacophony of snarls and growls. They didn't dare look back, yet the throaty roar of the dark creature echoed through the clearing, drowning them in fear. They stumbled through the underbrush, branches clawing at their skin as they ran blindly. "Do you think they'll follow us?" Samantha panted, desperation creeping into her voice. "Maybe, but it's a chance we have to take." Jake breathed, more determined than ever. They came to a halt, gulping down air, straining to listen. The sounds of their pursuers faded slightly, but the adrenaline still coursed through their veins like fire. "We need to find somewhere safe," he continued, scanning their surroundings. Just then, a flash of movement caught Samantha's eye. A dark figure emerged from the shadows of the trees, larger than they'd encountered before. Was it the same beast? The aura was different, more sinister, more cunning. It seemed to stalk them, almost amused by their panic. "Jake," she whispered, her breath hitching. Stay close. He snapped, eyes wide and alert. Anxiety crept back into his expression. The creature watched them, its golden gaze unblinking, almost calculating. Samantha felt the urge to run, but her muscles froze. The full weight of their situation pressed down like a leaden blanket. Run! Jake suddenly shouted, shattering the taut silence as he pulled her along once more. They sprinted again, branches whipping against their arms, the forest closing in around them. But the malevolent presence stalked in the shadows, watching, waiting for the moment they would falter. They burst into another clearing, more desolate than the last. A massive stone structure loomed ahead, an ancient ruin swallowed by nature. It looked almost inviting, yet the shadows cast by broken walls felt creepier than the forest. Do we go in? Samantha asked, frozen in indecision. We can't hide forever, Jake replied, hesitating. The determination in his voice wavered. It's our only option. They stepped closer, a chill washing over Samantha as dusk settled heavier. The doorless entry gaped like a hungry maw, shadows flickering inside. What if it's a trap? She murmured, but a shiver of hope glimmered amidst her fear. Better than being out here, Jake answered firmly, his grip on her hand tight as they moved forward into the unknown. But just as they reached the threshold, a thunderous crash echoed from behind them. The sound was deafening, an unmistakable sign that they were not alone, both in and out of the ruin. Samantha's heart dropped as she turned. Shadows morphed into shapes, emerging from both front and back, closing in rapidly. Go! She shouted, adrenaline kicking in. They lunged inside just as the growl of the first creature erupted, its fierce pursuit trailing close behind them. But what awaited them in the pitch-black darkness of the ruin? Would they find sanctuary, or would it bring more danger than protecting them from the beasts outside? Samantha and Jake stumbled inside, the air thick with dampness and an overwhelming scent of decay. The darkness enveloped them like a heavy quilt, sending chills rippling down Samantha's spine. She squeezed Jake's hand. He could feel her trembling, but they couldn't stop now, not for a moment. Can you see anything? Jake whispered, his voice barely breaking the heavy silence. No. Just darkness. The words barely escaped her lips before they were swallowed by the shroud of shadows. Suddenly, a low rumble crept through the ground beneath them, resonating from deep within the walls of the ancient ruin. Samantha's breath hitched, fear clawing at the back of her throat. The growl from outside had quieted, only to be replaced by 100 soft whispers brushing past her ears, as if the stones themselves were alive, creeping closer with every heartbeat. Let us keep moving, Jake urged, trying to sound braver than he felt. There's got to be another way out. They shuffled deeper into the cavernous space, each step echoing ominously. The cold stone floor was uneven, and each crackle of dried leaves beneath their feet sounded like thunder in the stifled atmosphere. Do you think they can track us in here? Samantha asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Every instinct told her to flee, but there was nowhere left to run. I don't know. But we can't just stand here. Jake's tone carried a shaky resolve, as he guided her through the dark. Then, without warning, a flicker of pale blue light illuminated a section of the walls ahead. It pulsed like a heartbeat, beckoning them forward. Samantha squinted, trying to make sense of the light through the fog of apprehension. Jake, look. She pointed toward the glow, dread mixing with reluctant curiosity. He squinted too, eyes narrowing. It might be a trap, but the light seemed to promise safety, warmth, even a faint hope. They exchanged worried glances, then with a hesitant nod, together they pressed onward. As they approached, the pulse of light intensified, revealing ancient inscriptions that twisted like snakes across the stone. Samantha felt a strange connection to the symbols. Each carved etching spoke to her, almost as if whispering secrets hidden for centuries. What do you think they mean? She breathed, captivated despite her fear. I don't know, Jake admitted, glancing nervously around. But if we can find a way to activate it, maybe it can protect us. Just then, the ground trembled again, more violently this time, sending a cascade of dirt and debris rain down around them. They braced against the wall, eyes wide as they scanned their surroundings, listening for any signs of the looming creatures outside. "I think they're getting closer," Samantha whispered, her pulse quickening. "No. Focus. If we're going to figure this out, we need to stay calm," Jake replied, trying to keep his voice steady as the unsteady ground beneath them continued to quake. As they reached out to touch the pulsating light, the inscriptions began to glow brighter, vibrating in response to their presence. A melodic hum enveloped them, resonating deep within their chests, a sound that both terrified and exhilarated them. "What is happening?" Samantha asked, a mix of dread and awe clouding her voice. I think it's reacting to us," Jake exclaimed, his eyes wide with a dawning realization. But just as they felt a wave of power course through the air, a heart-stopping roar erupted outside the ruin. The creatures were here, tearing through the landscape, their monstrous growls mixing with the eerie hum of the inscriptions. The energy from the light pulsed even stronger, and Samantha thought she could sense a strange warmth reaching out to envelop them. "What if this could protect us?" she breathed, hope mingling with fear. But as they stood there, a sinking feeling hit her. What if whatever ancient power this was didn't shield them but instead drew the monstrous creatures closer? "Jake, if this doesn't work, we might be trapped here forever." Samantha's eyes darted around, searching for a way out, as another thunderous crash echoed in the darkness. Would they find a way to utilize the ancient light and come out alive, or would their sanctuary turn into a tomb? The sound of claws scraping against stone filled her ears. "Get ready!" Jake shouted, heart racing with dread as the very essence of the ruin began to tremble violently. But just then, something in the air shifted. A voice, deep and resonant as the rumbling ground, filled the chamber. "Seek the light, become one." What did it mean? The tension thickened. Would they discover the truth behind the inscriptions or succumb to the darkness closing in around them? The walls pulsed with a frantic energy, responding to the voice that echoed through the darkness. "Seek the light, become one." It was a command and a plea, a tone that thrummed deep in Samantha and Jake's bones, pulling them closer to the glowing inscriptions. "Jake, what do we do?" Samantha shouted above the growing cacophony. The noise outside grew deafening, claws scraping against stone, deep growls vibrating through the air, and the ground beneath them heaved like a living entity. "Just hold on." Jake's voice trembled, and he reached out again, fingers brushing the glowing carvings. As he did, the light flared, illuminating a vast chamber beyond the inscriptions. Shadows danced wildly, revealing twisted shapes on the walls, creatures from ancient lore depicted in agonizing detail. "Look!" Samantha gasped, pointing toward the ceiling that had become a surreal canvas of terror, deathly faces locked in eternal screams. The air felt thick, pressing against them, and Samantha struggled to breathe. The voice resonated again, but closer this time, deepening the tension in the air. "Embrace the light, or be consumed by the darkness." "Embrace it?" Jake echoed, panic rising in his throat. "What does that even mean?" As if in response, the light pulsed aggressively, and another tremor rippled through the ground. The creatures were fighting to break in, their roars echoing through the ruin, drowning out the eerie melody. Samantha could feel the vibrations in her chest, a reminder of their imminent danger. "Maybe we need to." Jake stopped mid-sentence as he saw something shift in the shadows behind her. Samantha turned, and her blood ran cold. The darkness seemed alive, twisting and contorting into a shape with glinting eyes fixed on them, hungry and powerful. It glided closer, jarring the ruins as it moved. "You must choose," it whispered, a fretting sound that carried the weight of 1,000 secrets. "Jake! What do we choose?" Samantha shouted, fear threading through her voice. "There's got to be a way to control it." He yelled back, desperation fueling his movements. He pressed his palm flat against the runes, and in an instant, the room erupted in light. A surge of energy burst forth from the inscriptions, momentarily pushing back the darkness. The creature, restrained by the shroud of light, hissed, its eyes narrowing into slits. For that brief moment, they were safe, but only for as long as the light held. What if this doesn't last? Samantha's heart hammered in her chest as she felt the weight of their choices. What if the ground lurched again, sending them stumbling into one another? We make it last. We have to believe in it. Jake urged fiercely, his determination brightening amidst the chaos. Samantha drew a shaky breath. The warmth enveloping her felt like a lifeline. What if embracing it means becoming part of it? Before Jake could answer, the light pulsed violently, and suddenly, shadows exploded into the chamber. A multitude of grotesque shapes poured in from every corner, all reaching out toward the pulsing glyphs that had given them a moment of reprieve. Jake! They're coming! Without thinking, Samantha reached up and clasped Jake's face, forcing him to meet her gaze. We can do this. We'll find a way. But uncertainty flickered in his eyes. But what if we lose ourselves? Samantha's breath hitched, the looming question hanging heavy in the air. Then we'll find each other again somehow. The creatures converged, shrieking and clawing. It felt impossible, but within the wrap of warmth, she clung to hope, praying that the ancient light could shield them, could lead them to freedom. As they began to chant the ancient words, the glyphs shimmered around them. Darkness recoiled for a moment but surged back, hungrier than ever. Hold on! Jake shouted, as the whole structure groaned in protest. The air thickened with a sense of impending doom. As the monstrous shadow spread through the chamber, Jake and Samantha felt an electric pulse, their very souls tethered to the light. The moment hung in the balance, a split second of choice that could either save or doom them. And in that moment, the inscriptions began to transform, revealing a terrifying truth that neither of them could have foreseen. What could they learn from the light's call? Would it lead them to liberation or their ultimate demise? With a howl of fury, the darkness lunged toward them again, forcing them to confront the reality of their choices together or alone. The light wavered, sputtering under the relentless advance of the shadows. Jake and Samantha clung to each other, hands clasped tightly, the heat radiating from the glyphs making their skin prickle. The sinister laughter of the creature echoed, curling around them like mist. You think you are safe? It hissed, as the grotesque forms writhed just beyond the light's edge, their claws slashing at the invisible barrier. Samantha's heart raced. Every instinct screamed to run, but the vast wall of darkness threatened to swallow them whole. Jake! We have to do something. We can't let this light go out. The urgency in her voice heightened as she realized how close the darkness was creeping. The air seemed to vibrate with anticipation, and then everything snapped into silence for a fleeting breath. Jake's eyes widened. You're right. The inscriptions, they're not just symbols. They're a choice. He turned toward the glowing runes, urgency burning in his chest. What if they intend to merge us with this light? To make us part of something bigger? But what if it's a trap? Samantha gasped, her mind racing. Could she really trust this ancient, mysterious force? In that split second, she felt the darkness hammering at the edges of their sanctuary, pressing, clawing, vicious. With every second, the shadows pulsated, and someone had to make a decision. We're running out of time, Jake. Make it happen. Her words struck him like a lightning bolt. The pulsating glyphs began to twist and pulse, responding to their rising panic. He stepped forward, feeling the heat radiate from the ancient markings. We have to believe in the light. Just like you said, embrace it, become one with it. As he reached a trembling hand towards the shimmering inscriptions, the chamber erupted in light once more. The walls shook violently, and for a moment, Jake felt lightheaded, as though he were floating. But then that sensation was ripped away as the darkness roared, crashing over them like an avalanche. The light flickered dangerously, and Samantha screamed, "Do it! Please!" With a surge of determination, Jake shouted, "I embrace you." His voice echoed loudly, connecting with the rhythm of the walls. The inscriptions pulsed in response, sending a shockwave of energy spiraling outward, illuminating every corner of the vast chamber. And then, for just a moment, the darkness recoiled, but then it surged forward, thick and oily, embracing the light in a struggle unlike anything they had ever encountered. The chamber pulsated between light and dark, chaos and order, threatening to tear apart the fabric of their very beings. No! Jake yelled, the pain of resisting tearing at him. "Stay with me, Samantha. Fight this." Tears streamed silently down Samantha's cheeks as she felt the shadows creep closer. Despair weighed heavily on her chest. "I don't know how." Panic seeped into her bones. What if they really did lose themselves? "Remember what you said. We'll find each other. Always." Jake pulled her closer, their bodies almost merged, their breath aligned in a perfect rhythm, once again making the sacred chant of the ancient words. With every repetition, the room quaked, shaking, vibrating as if it was alive. The shadows snarled, fangs gleaming in the light, desperately clawing at the flickering barrier. Samantha and Jake's voices rose dramatically, pushing against the dark like a dam about to break, but the dark was smart, too. In a twisted lunge, it lunged forward and claimed its first victim. A flicker of light within their chant dimmed, snuffed out in an instant. Samantha gasped, "No. It's pulling us apart." The light burst back to life, now swirling in a vibrant frenzy, catching their essence and reeling them in as they fought desperately to remain united. But the screams of the shadows echoed louder, gloating over their impending doom. With each passing moment, it felt as if the darkness was consuming their very identity. Jake's grip began to falter, and for an instant, Samantha saw doubt flicker across his face. "This can't be the end," she hollered, the strength of her words mixing with her frantic energy. "We can do this. We just have to hold on." But what if holding on meant losing themselves forever? As shadows clawed at their consciousness, the glyphs dissolved into a blinding flash of light. And suddenly, the room shifted, twisting into an unrecognizable landscape of shadows, a labyrinth of fears, memories, and desires waiting to ensnare them. What is happening?" Samantha gasped, fear bristling through her whole body as everything around them spiraled into chaos. Then came a voice, soft yet menacing, whispering through the swirling darkness, "Choose wisely." And suddenly, a terrifying understanding washed over them. What they had intuitively plugged into with their chants would soon reveal their ultimate choice. Would they cling to each other, risking the shadows, or would they sacrifice all for light? A flicking shadow surged, rushing toward the ethereal chant, and the very essence of their essence wavered as they stood at the precipice of their fate. Would they descend into the abyss, or could the light truly show them a path towards freedom? The ground trembled beneath them, and time stood still, the echo of their choices beginning to close in. What were they really willing to risk for the light? The chamber crackled with energy, a split second stretched like a tightrope, teetering both ways, darkness or light. Samantha's heart thundered as she clutched Jake's hand, the pulse of certainty and fear intertwining in her veins. "Jake," she whispered, urgency pulling at her words. "Whatever happens, we stick together, okay?" He nodded, the flicker of determination glinting in his eyes. "Together." The shadows hissed impatiently, coiling and shifting, waiting for them to falter. They couldn't afford to lose this moment, not now. The flickering light showed them glimpses of their inner fears, the suffocating loneliness, the despair, and the nightmares that clawed at their souls. "Embrace the light," a voice whispered again, reverberating through the very marrow of their beings, urging them forward. Taking a deep, steadying breath, they turned their focus back to the inscriptions glowing fiercely against the encroaching dark. "This is our choice," Samantha said, squeezing Jake's hand tighter, her voice breaking under the weight of their collective fear. "Whatever we decide, let it be together." In that instant, they felt a surge of resolve. Without hesitation, they stepped forward into the pulsing glow of the inscriptions, shouting in unison, "We embrace you." With those words, the chamber erupted into brilliant light. It engulfed them, wrapping around their presences like a protective cocoon. Winds swirled, mixing with the darkness that screamed and howled, desperate to claim them. The world around them shifted violently, the cold grip of shadows clawing at the edge of their minds, yet the warmth of the light felt like home. It burned fiercely, igniting the memories buried deep within their hearts, laughter shared with friends, dreams nourished in quiet hours, love that thrummed just beyond their grasp. And in that haze, they saw their fears reflected back not as beasts, but as fragments of their own souls. Samantha gasped as visions of her past unfolded like dark petals, each one a bitter reminder of isolation and heartache. Jake stood resolute beside her, and together, they faced the haunting specters, their hands steadying each other. "Look!" Samantha shouted, pointing toward the ominous shadows swirling closer, forming faces, names, and phrases that cut deep. "We have to acknowledge them, but not let them control us." Jake took a breath, and for a fleeting moment, the words spilled forth, "You don't own me." The echoes resonated through the chaos, and Samantha joined in, "I reclaim my strength." Each proclamation pushed the shadows back just a little further, their figures wavering before the intensity of their combined light. As they faced down the chaos, the shadows began to unravel, dissolving into the thick fog. "You have no place here," Jake shouted, his voice echoing louder, combining with an urgent chant, the ancient words weaving through the air, transforming uncertainty into power. The inscriptions lit up, casting shadows of bravery across their figures, and with each word, the ground vibrated beneath them, crafting an invisible shield that pulsed with the energy of their choice. Samantha felt the darkness retreating, annoyance morphing into something resembling fear. "It's working," she shouted. "Keep pushing." And with a final burst of courage, they shouted together, "We choose light, we choose hope." A blinding light erupted, and the chamber shook as if the whole ruin were coming alive. Shadows howled, retreating in terror, unable to withstand the combined force of their resolve. In that moment, everything changed. As the darkness fell away, the ancient inscriptions exploded with a cascade of energy that erupted into celestial colors. Still gripping each other's hands tightly, they rushed forward, and just as the last tendrils of shadow clawed at them, they leapt. They fell through a veil of shimmering light, landing on cool, soft earth under a star-studded sky. They rolled into each other, disoriented yet bursting with newfound freedom. As they sat up, panting, they looked at each other, the realization dawning that they were alive. The creature figures twisted into nothing, leaving only the memories washed away by the light. "Did we make it?" Samantha asked, holding Jake's gaze, feeling every emotion rippling in the air between them. "Yeah, we did. We stuck together. We chose each other," he replied, a soft grin breaking across his face. She smiled back, relief flooding over her. The night felt different now, the weight of darkness lifted, the stars twinkling like jewels scattered across the velvet sky, but as they began to stand, a distant growl echoed softly from the ruins behind them, a lingering reminder of what they'd escaped, and perhaps, a suggestion that the darkness would always be waiting. "We can face it," Jake said, taking her hand firmly in his again. "Together." Samantha nodded. She felt a swell of gratitude, not only for the experience that had shaped them but for the connection they now shared, a bond sewn tight by adversity. The fog lifted completely, revealing a path lined with silver light that led them away from the ruins. And as they walked hand in hand toward their new dawn, a sense of hope wrapped around them, anchoring them to a future that was theirs to mold. Free from shadows, they stepped forward, ready to embrace whatever awaited them, their hearts intertwining with an unbreakable promise. You need to subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this epic ending. What did you think? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.